always changing. Everyone says you're always changing. That sounds like something out of a John Hughes movie, I know. I overthink. That is probably the only part that I would be willing to say I'm the same way. Rather than say like Dear Diary, and then this is what I thought today. And in the forest with like a flannel shirt on, holding a camera, and except his head is a moose. You bring up Spring Week 2 and you kind of stop. In any way like super embarrassing or humiliating, like could be used as blackmail against lit up their phones on like the phone flashlights, and then we were waving it around. Just because I'm not there doesn't mean it's not there anymore. I had to talk with them about like the research process, which I would then learn. Do I love what I'm doing, and what do I really love doing? Am I passionate? Like that kind of American system of you have to be like CEO of UNICEF or whatever. Knowing yourself, so like knowing that if I am up at 1 a.m. and do another reading, it's not going to be efficient, because I feel like at that point no amount of coffee will save me. Interact, right? And to like just be social, be human. The barista putting chocolate on this coffee because it's so good. You go and you walk away and you're like, oh, what have I done? No, don't actually. Or like just control what you do.
Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my podcast, Coffee's on Me, David Quan, where I strive to give guests legacy-worthy interviews that listeners can enjoy while cooking, commuting, relaxing, or walking their pets. Week 6 now for Lent term in Cambridge, and my guests and I are enjoying a cappuccino in my room at Castle Court, Clare College. We are approaching 10,000 podcast downloads, and if you have been enjoying the discussions on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts, please do consider leaving a review and nominating a guest by contacting me via my Linktree, David Quan. For those new to the podcast, welcome and thank you for your engagement. Please know that I don't take your time and feedback for granted, because when I started this podcast at a low point of my time in Cambridge, I was mostly nervous about humiliating myself. But I went ahead with this passion project based on 3 ideals, which still make up the content description for each podcast episode. First, a purpose of giving. Second, learning from others. And third, sharing of stories. I will be the first to admit my many inadequacies, and I'll certainly listen back to laugh at how naive I am. But I genuinely maintain the deep conviction that this passion project, if wholly true to the founding motivations about giving, learning and sharing, is a worthwhile pursuit. Seeing this podcast on people's Spotify Wraps or receiving positive messages about the guests always put a big smile on my face. I cannot thank all the guests enough for their courage and insights. For now, I'm very excited to host my guest, Sarah Ouyang. Sarah is a first-year student at St John's College, University of Cambridge, studying economics. She joined the Cambridge Student Investment Fund, CAMSIF, in September last year, where she enjoyed working on the energy team in first term and is now co-sector head of the ESG team. She's also Director of Growth and Partnerships in the non-profit organisation Bridges for Enterprise. Outside of academics, she loves music. She plays piano, cello and guitar, and just listening to music while walking around town. Some other hobbies include tennis, writing and baking, although that last one is a bit of a difficulty here at university. Back home, one of her favourite things to do is spend the day in New York and pretend she lives there rather than in New Jersey, and she hopes to return to the city someday. Sarah, welcome to my podcast, Coffee's on Me, David Quan.
Hi David, thanks for having me.
How's the coffee?
It's really great. They put chocolate on it, and I think that's blowing my mind right now. I've never had that. Never had that before. Coffee in New Jersey is just good on its own, and you never feel like you have to put anything on it.
What is the coffee culture like in America, if at all?
In one word, Starbucks. I think there's actual BuzzFeed quizzes that determine your personality just based on what your coffee order is, whether it's hot or cold, if you want whipped cream on it or not, if you get a frappuccino or a classic latte. And if you're in New York, then I guess the coffee culture is expensive.
Starbucks for me is basically I associate it with free Wi-Fi. As when I travel, it's like, yes, Starbucks, I can now finally connect myself back online.
I think just that kind of coffee shop culture is also just a really great part of being in the city. You got Starbucks or Panera Bread, which you don't have here in this country, which makes me really sad.
When I hear New York, New Jersey, I mean, I've been to both of those places. I mainly think about basketball because that's what I, grew up, cared a lot about, the New York Knicks and New Jersey Nets, which is now Brooklyn Nets. Are you a basketball fan?
I don't follow many sports. I watch some tennis and skiing, but don't know too much about basketball. Okay. The most I know about New York Knicks is from the show Friends. They talk about Knicks in there a lot.
Have you been to Madison Square Garden though?
Yeah, a lot. I think we visited a few times, but that's not one of the common places we go when we go to the city.
Okay, what's New Jersey like? If you could like sum it up in a minute, like. How would you describe the culture, the vibe, and how does it compare?
I think it's sort of characterized when you talk to people outside of America as the place that's next to New York. I feel like it's sort of, if the city is where you are when you're younger and you're pursuing your dreams, then New Jersey is sort of where you settle down and like enjoy a family life, as cliche as that is, but also just where you're a bit more calm and like practical, I guess, and you have these little communities. The place where I'm from, Basking Ridge, is just very quiet and just sort of very stoic as you go about life, I think, compared to city life. I don't know much about the rest of New Jersey. Actually, I only stayed in my little sphere.
Very stoic. Very reminds me of your hobby of philosophy. And I was wondering, I'll give you a choice now.
Right.
I can ask you a really probably more tough, but it could be more intellectually stimulating question, or we could keep going on some small talk to warm you up. What would you prefer?
Wow. As a Cambridge student, I guess I would have to go for the intellectual stimulation.
So I know that you did the John Locke philosophy competition and did a really good job.
Thank you.
So I went on the John Locke website just to look at their current philosophy questions, and maybe given the backdrop that I want this to be a legacy-worthy interview and just to capture some of your thinking process, I might give you one of their current philosophy questions, and I don't expect you to have a full answer, but maybe just walk me through when you get an intellectually stimulating question. Think out loud and just tell us how you think about things.
Sure, sounds fun.
So this is their top question for this year, which I'm assuming you haven't read.
No.
In what sense are you the same person today that you were when you were 10? In what sense are you the same person today that you were when you were 10?
Right. This might be drilled into me from growing up with the English education, like the English classes we have in American education. But when you first start off with a prompt, it's the same process that I'm doing when I did the competition a few years ago. I would just go through and see what parts of the question sort of need to be defined first before.
Do you want to see it?
Yeah, that would help actually. Sort of just define what parts of the question might be a bit ambiguous before I actually start answering. So just what parts might make my essay a little bit different. So I think I would start off with just talking about what it doesn't mean to say like the same person, and what parts of you are you thinking about when you're saying the same person. Is it like your personality? Is it that could include your work ethic, but also just how you interact with other people, or is it the mindset, how you see yourself? There's just so many different parts of being a human that it's always changing. Everyone says you're always changing, but to be you, to be the same person that you were when you were 10, I think you would have to really look at what aspects of yourself you think are most important. So I know a lot of that just sounded very vague and abstract, but that's sort of how I would start off, and that's how my mind kind of grinds when I first see a question like this. And for me, I think I have historically struggled a bit with figuring out how much of myself to give away to other people. That sounds like something out of a John Hughes movie, I know. It sounds very coming of age, but no, I'm in an honest sense though. I do think it's important to sort of reflect on how you're presenting yourself to other people. And I know that like in career paths like yours and mine, David, it's important how we present our image to other people. But I think with me, I tend to sort of define myself when I'm talking to others. For example, right now we're having sort of a pretty casual conversation. I feel comfortable sharing with you, but I also think I should be careful about sort of defining myself as, if I tell you, I think I lack a bit of self-confidence, and that's something I'm sharing with you, and I honestly feel a lot of the times. But recently, I think if I share something like that with you, that's reinforcing my own thoughts in my own head, like about how I perceive myself as someone who lacks self-confidence. So I think the way that this question is asking, are you the same person that you were when you were 10? I think that includes something like a sort of like definitive sense. You have to define who you are today and when you were 10, and by saying that you changed in a certain way, that also sort of reflects sort of like how you've grown, you know, because this is sort of going in circles. I know, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's brilliant.
But I would just say that wow. Give me a minute. This is I'm on the coffee right now. I'm high on coffee right now, but I think I would say that wow, I am so sorry, listeners. In the sense that I think and I overthink, that is probably the only part that I would be willing to say I'm the same person I was when I was 10. But all the other parts of myself, I wouldn't really wish to define right now.
That makes a lot of sense. Little did I know how much this prompt could bring.
Well, I don't think I expected like me to go on a tangent, but honestly, that's exactly how it works when I just get something like this. This is why I love reading like philosophy. This is why I did the actual the competition those years ago, because the one I did, the question was, I think, are there any subjects about which we should not even ask questions? And that's a little bit less personal. I don't go off about personal growth. But at the same time, it's the same thing. When I first saw that question, my brain immediately just gets this whole jumble of thoughts, thinky thoughts. And then I tend to just write everything down, because even if I'm like this thought is very incoherent, nobody's going to understand it, I still think just seeing it on the page, having it written down makes me feel better. I won't lose anything. And so that's how it works. I go off for, I don't know how long that was, but yeah.
So do you read much in philosophy? And if so, how do you go about reading philosophy? Like, do you look at articles, books, or do you just like talking to people about philosophical concepts?
Actually, all of the above, I would say. I do think that I started off just trying to find some introductory texts, because I'm interested in the subject, but I think that just going ahead is just reading Critique of Pure Reason, like the first thing I do, I think that would just blow my mind. That would just turn me away from the subject forever. So I think the first book I read in the field was Will Durant's The Story of Philosophy. And okay, that's a really great book, and not to promo, but everyone should read that. Because it goes through a lot of the prominent philosophers throughout history and all like the different eras of philosophy. And it does have like biographical sections for each of them, but it also just discusses their concept in such a approachable way. And I think just reading books like these, it helps me branch off and find other things I'm interested in. It's like an Investopedia page where you read something and then a hyperlink takes you somewhere else, and then you just go on from there. But that and talking with people just like with you right now, that's also another way I sort of learn.
Has there been a particular like philosophical term or concept or an idea that really tangibly changed the way you live?
I need to think about that. Having lived for like only 18 years, I don't know if I have had time to change my life that much. I think I would like to read a lot more before saying definitively if there's been something that's like characteristic for me. But I think reading into moral philosophy and metaphysics, those two branches have sort of been like comforting to me, a bit of a guidance, because you could tell from earlier that I'm a huge like rambling thinker. So just having these branches that talk about things like free will and identity, and I think just generally ethics, just these principles, to see that philosophers have, like other people are struggling, intellectuals are struggling with coming up with answers to these questions themselves. That's pretty that's been pretty.
It's great that the ESG head that we've appointed for CAMSIF is thinking about ethics.
No, I guess it's kind of fitting, yes. Yeah, so far not much time to incorporate a whole philosophy lecture in my ESG pitch, but no, it's definitely, yeah.
It's a green flag on you that you are.
Thank you. I see we're using the green flag term. Yeah.
You are you're if I'm not mistaken, you have a work in progress novel called Moose Man. Do you want to elaborate a bit more on that?
Right. I think Moose Man, the title itself needs a bit of context, doesn't it?
Yep.
I would begin by saying it's not. I'm not sure if it's going to be a novel. I don't know what it's going to be yet. So far, I would say it's a Google Doc that I go on when I have thoughts, and I put it into the context of this whole story that's sort of coming into place. Because for me, it's sort of easier to write my honest thoughts down in like a creative fiction format rather than say like Dear Diary and then this is what I thought today, and because I think that just helps me be a bit more honest, and also it's that's sort of how I'm most comfortable writing. So Moose Man is sort of like that, sort of an ongoing stream of conscious type thing. It has characters, but they really, most of the time, they're just talking about the thoughts that I've had. And I'm sorry, what was your question about?
So I guess a work in progress novel, like how many words have you got in the Google Doc, and what are you hoping for that? Is it a draft, a manuscript? Do you want to publish it, or is it just a collection of ideas at the moment?
Right now I don't know about the words. I think it's about 30 pages for the actual writing part, and then there's about like 40 pages after that, which is just random scraps of one-liners I've had throughout the years. I think I started it in 10th grade, so that would have been like 3 years ago. Basically, it's called Moose Man because in my house, like right outside of my sister and I study, there's this photo, or like I guess it's in like art piece that my dad bought, I don't know how long ago, but it's basically a man in the forest with like a flannel shirt on, holding a camera, and except his head is a moose head. And I mean, it's a nice photo, it's got cool colors. I have no idea what my dad was thinking when I guess it resonated with him. But I just thought that picture is always, it's either made me laugh or just made me sort of want to be in that forest place. It's a really cool picture. And then for some reason one day I was like, I feel like this is making me think, and I don't know why, but I feel like this character that I've been building in my novel, which is sort of just a vessel for my own thoughts. I don't know why I thought just Moose Man, if it's, I don't know, I don't question it. It's just the title of it now. And I mean, in terms of my plans for it, I'm not really sure. I just want to see where the story goes. It's a bit late for me to publish it as a child prodigy now that I'm 18. But I don't know if it would be like a cool novel to publish one day. I think that'd be kind of cool just to have my sort of pseudo-diary published in a way where it's a story. That's kind of interesting.
So you mentioned how the 40-page, the one-liner. So, correct me if I'm wrong, is it just that maybe you could be studying, or you could have just finished a conversation with a friend and some random idea pops up and your first instinct is, let's open that Google Docs and just add that idea in there just to store it?
That's exactly it. It could be one-liners, it could be just like, sometimes it ends up just being a whole page of this one like monologue that I go into, because it could literally be me having just watched a politics lecture, and then they talked about like literacy and its effect on like, you know, human welfare, social welfare, and that very like economic type thing. But then I don't know, some part of me in my brain, it might just start thinking about education, think about what we're taught, and think about how you know, like that shapes how we think, and then if we're being taught, or if we're thinking while we're being taught, if we're being taught to think a certain way. So it just goes off on a tangent, and then I put it in the doc and then see if it fits in the story later on, I guess.
Oftentimes people don't write as much because they're afraid of perfection. With that Google Docs, do you feel like you got the freedom to literally just write whatever? Or do you also try and make it a bit polished?
I think so. I mean, yeah, that was a yes. That wasn't a yes or no question, but so. But, I went, how's the weather today? Yes. No, but I think I definitely feel freedom in the sense that it's just a very I know that my purpose for it is just a place to put my thoughts down, and I do feel comfortable sharing with some people. I've shown my sister the whole thing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but I know it's a very on open place where I don't mind just writing whatever. Although I do think that when I write it down, though, the interesting part about this, like my thoughts when I put it in there, is that they've been like forming in my head. So then when I put it down, I mean, to me at least, it's already like pretty coherent, and then it's something that I think is unique. Otherwise, I don't know, it would just be another thought. I would put it somewhere else in another story. I have just so many it's just unfinished like stories in my Google Drive, and it's running out of storage, so.
And do you often go back to read the doc, and if so, what kind of emotions does it usually evoke?
I go back to read pretty regularly, actually.
Yeah.
Because some parts of it are thoughts that I've had just throughout the years when I'm at my most stressed, or like when I'm at my most most down. I have periods where I think I just get a bit, my mood just is down, and I can't bring my energy up. And then the worst part is when I'm asked, like, what do you think triggered this, and I just cannot come up with an answer for that. So this is sort of why I put it in a creative writing, like a fictional sort of part, because I don't have to justify why the characters feel the way they do. I just write about it, and when I have these feelings and I don't know how to rationally explain why I have them, or these thoughts I'm having, then I just put it on there, and I am allowed to like voice it that way. So when I go back and I'm feeling similar things, like as anxious as I was when I was applying for like college applications more than a year ago, then I go back and I see what I wrote about life, about work, about just anxiety, like the few pages I wrote about that, and I go through and read those pages. It makes me feel a little bit better. It's like I've already thought this before, I felt this before, and I've been able to write it down coherently. Somehow that's comforting to me.
No, that's awesome. I mean, obviously you've shown your sister the full thing, but like, God forbid this doesn't happen, but say if that doc got leaked, what kind of perceptions do you think other people would have of Sarah?
Of me?
So you walk into lecture and everyone has now read
to be fair, if I walk into lecture and everyone has read it, I still think as an econ student that everyone's still going to just be watching Charles Brandon talk about macroeconomics, because everybody's too stressed and behind on lectures to care about like an overthinker's novel that they've seen. But I mean, anyone who already sort of knows me, I don't think they would be too surprised, because again, as I mentioned before, I just struggle a bit with like knowing how much of myself to present to people. So I think I tend to just share whatever I think and share my feelings, and so people who know me do know how much of sort of an overthinker I am. And I wouldn't say that any of the things I've written in Mooseman are in any way like super embarrassing or humiliating, like could be used as blackmail against me or anything. No, I don't know. I wouldn't say that, because I don't know if it's because I'm just not embarrassed by those thoughts, like or they're just kind of normal thoughts. I hope are sort of normal thoughts.
You sound like you resonate a lot with like Rene Descartes. Like, I think, therefore I am. Like, that's.
No, yeah, I am. I think I'm basically a mind and like nothing else. No, yeah. I think there's this one part actually in Mooseman where I actually bring up Descartes, because there's this one part where I was talking about basically one character asks another character, like, why are you never happy? How do you, like, there must be moments where you can't help being happy. Something good happens. Like, how do you keep it down? And then, like, this is like asking the main character, and then it just goes into this whole monologue, and it talks and I kind of bring up Descartes because Descartes, like, versus Thomas Hobbes, because I'm talking about how my theory is that happiness sort of is in the place between your brain and your mind, and like that sounds like the same thing, but I think for me, like, the brain is where like the sciences, and the mind is where your feelings and your philosophy are. And I think like happiness is sort of like the place between that, like a bridge between what's tangible and what's not. And then so I guess I would when you say I would resonate with Descartes, I think, yeah, for someone who's like as vague as a speaker as I am, I guess a little bit just sort of floaty and just thinking constantly. Yeah.
Would you consider yourself a spiritual person?
Sorry, in what sense?
Like, do you, like, when I think about like transcendence, like, are you religious? Do you believe in a higher being? Are you exploring, like, because a lot of the questions you think about seems to be very tied with kind of faith and a higher order being and religion and just, you know.
Right. I didn't. My family's not religious. I didn't grow up in that environment, so it's just like not in my habit. I don't. I wouldn't say, like, I wouldn't just say, oh, I'm an atheist. Because I don't really know. I'm not certain, and I'm sort of open to if I ever had the chance to sort of like experience or like learn a bit more about it. I think it's called agnostic, right? Where you're sort of just like sort of uncertain, because to me, I think, for example, when I think about the idea of an afterlife, like the way I think about it, I guess it would just be different from someone who's grown up with religion thinks about it, because I think it's, for example, it's possible to think about an afterlife, and it's almost comforting to me to think that you can like live beyond your physical life here. But to me, it's less about sort of like where exactly you go, and more about just like a continuation of who you were when you were here, like you live on in like the way you've impacted other people, sort of that kind of idea. So I think just when I think about those questions, it's slightly different.
Yeah. Absolutely. Music has been quite a big part of your life. You've been studying classical music for almost 15 years, and it seems like from our conversation that not many other things other than thinking, like music brings you a lot of joy and comfort, and you probably find a lot of your identity in music. Do you want to elaborate on what music means to you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, as you said, that's 15 out of 18 years of my life has been, I've just like music has been part of that, and I think it's just become such an integral part of who I am. Like I don't really know what kind of person I would be if I hadn't started studying piano. I think piano is the instrument I've studied for the longest. Cello is I think about like 8 years now, 7 or 8 years, and then guitar like very recently. Just all these instruments, the way they've taught me about discipline, time management, all these like real life skills, it's definitely important, and it's definitely like
This is not a spring week interview.
Oh, no, I feel that. No, I can hear myself going into the scene. I was just going to say though that these definitely like collaboration with others. In a workplace, I think I could apply my music skills. No, definitely.
No, sorry, go on.
Wow. Well, it makes me reflect. Maybe the Spring Week applications have basically changed the way I talk, How long have I been going around talking like this? But no, I think you've kind of broken me here too.
Yeah, sorry, you were in that zone with music and I just ruined.
When you bring up Spring Week too, and you kind of stop. The brain stops here. But I do think that music, like I've literally had friends here who, after just like a month or two of knowing me when I came here, told me that you're a music person, like you're the music girl, because I walk around with headphones, these headphones I have here actually, Sony XM4, another promo. They're just sort of my like my comfort, like there's like, I wouldn't say coping mechanism, but but I don't really go anywhere without them, because I just think just constantly having all different kinds of music, not just classical. I've said actually the most music I listen to probably comes out of my dad's Apple playlist. And just like all different genres. Just I think any form of music is it's just such a comfort to me. It brings something to my life that I don't think anything else can, because it's sort of like, for one thing, it drowns out my rambling thoughts when I want to, but also in a way it sort of enhances everything else I'm experiencing. Like just walking to lectures, just I can almost influence my mood with what music I'm listening to, and or if I'm feeling something and I want to like if I am feeling a certain emotion, then like listening to a certain song, maybe associated with like a memory I had, or just from like the genre of music itself, I think it just like I feel it like tenfold. I don't know if people even use the word tenfold anymore, but yeah, I think I could always be discovering new music, and it always brings something new to just bring something new to my life.
So, are there any like go-to songs that you often remind yourself of when you're feeling anxious or stressed during Cambridge term, for example?
I think one of my all-time favorite songs is "Somewhere Only We Know" by Keane. That song just never gets old for me, and while you mentioned like studying at Cambridge, I think my like sort of pre-exam luck song is, don't judge me for this, it's "Take Me Home Country Roads."
Oh yeah, I love
John
that.
Denver. It's I don't know, I think it was during AP exams, it just became a thing for me to listen to that on the way to school before AP exams. It's like a Lucky Charm type thing. And I think most of my favorite songs are sort of like rock, like in 80s, 90s. I really love U2. And I honestly it's surprising for someone who's always listening to music that I can't really name just a few off the top of my head. But I definitely go back and listen to like a lot of songs that will bring me back to some old memories.
What's the balance between going back to old songs and exploring new songs? Because time is scarce.
A scarcity, that's another econ. Actually, that's interesting. I think I've been becoming more open to like exploring new songs. I think I remember in high school I was sort of just like, I would walk around the halls with my earplugs and just be listening to like the same Apple playlist over and over again. Well, honestly, that was sort of because in the beginning we didn't have Spotify, and then I would just listen to whatever my dad downloaded. I sort of blame him for my music taste. but even like after my sister got the Spotify plan and I could explore new music, I think part of me was just like, this is my comfort space, and these songs like Richard Marx or Sting or like Cyndi Lauper, these songs just remind me of, I don't know, being in the car with my family, just being completely free and comfortable. But I think more and more, like part of coming to uni, also just meeting new people, going to like Ents and not knowing any of the songs there. Sort of I have been exploring a lot more music, like Leve, this Icelandic singer, or just I think new singers have actually brought me like new memories too.
That's wonderful. I guess music being one of those universal languages that everyone can understand and feel touched by, but for someone like you who has studied music at a very high level, knowing the theory behind it and knowing kind of the technicality, when you listen to music, how much of your brain focuses on the composition of the music or do you try and separate out between the formal study of music and the practice of music versus the just let it seep in my soul, that kind of...
Wow. Okay, I'm going to be honest. For someone who has studied classical music for so long, my theory is definitely like subpar. I would say I think I sort of have relative pitch, but I would not, like, if someone played like an A major chord, I would not be able to just say 100% that's an A major chord. Like, I think when I listen to music, I realized I do notice some things that like my family around me were listening to the same music. I realized that they actually don't notice, like the way the percussion comes in, or like the way the strings kind of like complement what the singer's voice. But I think for me, it's the comforting part of it is sort of just to let go and just listen. Even when I'm listening to classical music, I think just sort of as a listener instead of a player, I think I enjoy just letting like the composition just be in the background.
Any favorite like composers?
I really love Sibelius. Yeah, his violin concerto in D is just one of my favorite. Our performance of it in the New Jersey Youth Symphony, the first in the New Jersey Youth Symphony, when we played that for the first time, that performance actually just I think it completely changed how I saw classical music and like cello playing, and I always go back to that piece all the time.
I guess music is also a very social thing, and for you, your piano teacher used to take students to perform music in a festival in Italy during the summer. So do you want to elaborate a bit more on maybe the social elements of music and those moments of an orchestra, like sharing it with other people? And for me personally, like that's what I found the most joy in, like being part of bands and ensembles. And when I listen to songs that we performed, I actually think back to all the fun times that we have had with different people. But for you, elaborate a bit more on the social elements.
Right. I think, well, the most social part of music has to be with cello, because it always playing in an orchestra. And with the New Jersey NJYS, like we've had these few moments sometimes throughout the years that I've been with them. I think that's like 7 years, because I've been with them since 6th grade. So there have been just moments I did not expect when we were performing or maybe just rehearsing, that I would just suddenly feel like, wow, this kind of music and this kind of energy that I'm feeling here would not be possible without everyone around here being just as into this performance as I am. I remember I think that it was actually in the senior year, a group from the NJYS we played at a Juneteenth concert in New York, and one of the moments of the concert was the audience was singing along with a song that we were playing, and then also like everyone in the audience sort of lit up their phones on the phone flashlights, and then we were waving it around, and then I like sitting as a cello, like get to sit like closer to the outside, so you sort of see everything, and it was I mean, like that's like a sort of, when you ask about like the social aspect, it's sort of like a general feeling of being with other people who are so talented and so passionate about music, and with an audience who is so here just to listen to you and enjoy. And so I think that's sort of given me a sense about like when I'm just talking to people normally, like outside of music, I feel a sense of like potential, like just you get the potential to sort of feel that energy outside of music. So yeah.
No, that's wonderful. And looking ahead in your life, what kind of role do you think music will play? Would you be like, for example, actively trying to take part in an orchestra, a group, or would it just be more of an individual pursuit?
That's already actually pretty relevant now, because with the coursework here, I don't have that much time to do like the full-on orchestra commitment that I had back home. But I think like with piano and guitar, these are instruments that I just go and play whenever I need that sort of comfort and therapy. But I think I would like to join like chamber groups, or maybe like if I learn a bit more about playing by ear, like a jazz group when I grow up. I feel like just finding other musicians, other people to enjoy jamming with would be fun. Yeah, just like a comfort.
Is music and philosophy, do you think they're quite similar?
Music and
philosophy.
Wow, it's another one. Like, are you the same person as you were 10? You were 10. You're gonna send me off on another spiral.
Because music could be described as a philosophy, and philosophy could be, some people describe it almost like music. So.
I guess so, but people also say music is math, which I'm gonna be honest, I really don't like that. It's like close to ruining music for me when people say. I mean, if you think about it, music theory is really mathematical. I'm like, no, I'm come here. I'm listening to music to escape that. So let me be. But no, I see that. I mean, obviously they're both these intangible things. Intangible things that it almost feels like they existed before people like discovered them, but at the same time it feels something so human too. It's really interesting that these are things that like it's such a privilege for people to enjoy them, and I guess in a sense they're similar in that there's so many like there's different sides to them. Like I mean, obviously we've talked about like the theoretical music theory, which is like technical, and in philosophy there's like more like technical ways to go about studying it, and then there's also the part where you're just alone and enjoying them by yourself.
Sometimes one of the best ways to really challenge people and to help them to think through their decisions in their lives is to play devil's advocate. But for you, you were involved in as an editor for devil's advocate in school.
Right.
Do you want to elaborate a bit more on what that means and what is the rich devil's advocate being an editor there?
Okay, a bit. I would have to say a bit like anticlimactic here, but it's called Devil's Advocate because Devils is our school mascot. So the Devil's Advocate was our school newspaper. Is our school newspaper, and just because I'm not there doesn't mean it's not there anymore. Right.
The devil's left.
It's got no right. Wow. Okay. Okay, I see how it is. The Devil's Advocate. It was one of like the biggest clubs at school. Like people just loved joining it because it was so free and flexible. There's a lot of columns you could write under. I wrote under, I think, domestic affairs at first, but then I opened this satire column because I was really inspired by the New Yorker, the Shouts and Murmurs part of the New Yorker magazine. And I thought like a satire column would be fun to have in a school newspaper. Definitely not risky. No, we had like guidelines set in place for like the content, but I just thought like a place to like open up creative channels. It was a fun experience.
What's Devil's Quill then?
That's the literary magazine, so it's exclusively for like fiction pieces and artwork.
So you were editor for both of them and also editor for the Ridge's Political Review.
Yeah.
So it was very clear that you were very interested, I guess, in the intellectual side of extracurricular.
Right. I think I was just sort of interested in seeing the different ways of writing, sort of, because, I mean, one's a magazine, another's a newspaper, and another's a journal.
But being, like, editor-in-chief, that entails also, I guess, promoting the magazine and also, like, reading through other people's work and helping other people find their own voice. How was that process of kind of reading what other people have to say and then engaging in that dialogue? Did you enjoy it?
I did. I think I was only able to spend like one year, I think, as the editor-in-chief, but wait, now I'm a bit confused. I don't really remember, but I think working as an editor, there's the part where you can still write for yourself, and I love that freedom. But to be able to read other people's writings and sort of like see how other people go about writing a certain topic that maybe you would have been interested in yourself. That's like why I edited for the domestic affairs column, because like there's a lot of like sort of econ issues that people like econ current affairs that people write about. I think that was interesting because I would sort of get to talk with them about like the research process, which I would then learn a bit about for myself, and then also just about like what their purpose was going into writing this article. If they wanted to share a certain insight or like a certain like opinion that they wanted to be made accessible. So yeah, that was I guess that was that was a really unique way to interact with people.
I guess in America, you know, the entire like uni application is more focused on this holistic profile and actually being involved in different things. And, you know, for your common application, you would have to list like, you know, your top 10 extracurriculars, and leadership is obviously weighed quite highly.
Yeah.
How much do you think of your involvement was kind of pushed by the system that almost forces you to be involved versus like your own kind of intellectual curiosity and intrinsic motivation?
I think that's actually something that's sort of like been an issue in my head since like college applications, since junior year, like all of that started. I think for me, I actually didn't force myself into much of like the same kind of structured path that a lot of people, like other students around me, did in my community. The thing is that my parents are actually they're both very supportive in the way that, like, my dad's sort of like a laissez-faire parent, and my mom is like, my mom's hopes for my sister and me are sort of just to find like passion in life, to find something that we love doing, and then to really be good at it and to do something with it. And I mean, that's why I've become this person who's always like, do I love what I'm doing, and what do I really love doing? Am I passionate, like that kind of thing? But with that said, I think that also meant that I was a bit more like leaning towards just finding like what I'm actually genuinely interested in, like intellectually pursuing, as you said. So like these publications, I think when I joined like the Chamber of Commerce interns program, and the ALIS, the Alliance of Youth Leaders in the U.S., like these are both volunteer organizations, and I guess they would play into the whole American system of you have to be like CEO of UNICEF or whatever, that kind of system. But I think even with like ALIS, our branch was focused on music. It organized activities all like music themed. We have performances and that kind of thing. So even then, I really wanted to do things that just like were genuinely related to what I was interested in. I think like the Chamber of Commerce, I joined partly also because I thought like I could learn a bit about like business, and it could tie to econ as always. So yeah, I think when the like American college application system sort of asks us as like semi-adults to already sort of know exactly what we want to do, I don't think I was quite at that place yet. So.
Yeah. I guess your parents, if I'm not mistaken, they moved from China to America, whereas you were actually born in America. So I guess the kind of cultural immersions for the first, 2 decades are very different, and therefore your ways of thinking it would be very different to them. So how would you describe their parenting styles? And you talked about like the hope that she has for you to find the passion. Do you want to just elaborate on how you felt that hope and how they nurtured this intellectual curiosity in you?
I think, well, I would say it's just it's like the idea of passion and finding something I'm passionate about. Ambition is as another word that was like used a little bit, but mainly the word was passion, and finding like a project to complete. I think this idea, I mean, I gotta say, there's just nothing wrong I can find with it. I just think it's like I'm so lucky to have like a parent like my mom who generally just keeps pushing me to think. So it's like I have a pushing factor. Like there's a pushing factor where I'm being forced to discipline and forced to again just push myself further. But in the sense that it's genuinely for like self-reflection and for being like honest with myself, and for and just towards finding something that is like sustainable, because the whole idea of finding something that you're passionate about is that it's sustained, it's throughout your life, and it's supposed to just like guide you in what you want to do. So I think that's definitely like the impact it's had on me.
You've said the word discipline and the idea of pushing yourself several times. What does it look like on an everyday level? Like, are you, for example, at 1 a.m., like, you're so tired and like, no, just do one more reading? Like, what does it look like?
Wait, wow, we're really at Cambridge, aren't we? To be fair, I don't think quite at that level.
Just one more coffee, come on.
I don't know. I can't have more than one, because like lactose intolerance, I can't really have like more than one cappuccino. But I would say that it's less about just like grinding and pushing myself almost like physically, and more about like thinking again. My favorite thing. But I'm like thinking smartly, like disciplining my thoughts so that I plan out my day well, because that's like a big thing with that my mom taught my sister and me, is about time management, in terms of like not like you have to spend your whole day doing work, and like if you're not, you're wasting time. No, it's not. It's more about like just planning your day out and getting what you have to do done, and and knowing yourself. So like knowing that if I am up at 1 a.m. and do another reading, it's not going to be efficient, because I'm going to fall asleep every 5 words, especially when it's like a history paper on unemployment statistics. I feel like at that point no amount of coffee will save me. But so just like like replanning that, and I'm in like involved in quite a few societies, but so just like my society work, balance that with my coursework, balance that with a healthy like exercise schedule, and then with like a decent amount of social schedule, which my parents always, like when we call, they're always like, just like, you have enough time to like interact, right? And to like just be social, be human. and yeah, so all of these different things, just to discipline, and my ideas just is just knowing how to get them in order.
I won't ask you what it means to be human, because that would go
oh no
into another spiral.
That's smart.
But I do want to maybe hone in a bit more on like time management and how you make decisions about how to live your life. I mean, I guess Cambridge is such a busy place that there's always something on, and for someone as talented as you'll be pulled in all different directions. So when you were nominated for this podcast, for example, what was going through your thinking process, and why did you ultimately decide to take an afternoon out of a very, very busy Cambridge week to do this? Like, what's the utility? What's the motivation? Like, analyze and describe to me how you came to the decision of sitting here and chatting.
Well, in terms of opportunity cost.
Opportunity cost, yeah.
Well,
when you could be pushing yourself.
Well, unrelated, thank you for the free coffee.
I see how it is, okay.
No, it is. It's because, I mean, I've been going on tangents, but I just really love, like, just talking like this. That's what I love about the atmosphere of your podcast, is that we just, we don't have to talk about like Freakonomics or something. We're talking about like you guide us so well, and just letting us talk about what we want to. So I thought, like, any chance to just have a conversation like this and to get to know you a little bit more too. I think like that's worthwhile. It's a nice afternoon, a way to spend the afternoon, and also it's week 5's over and it's not week 5 anymore. So this is definitely not the busiest week of the term, but wow, that sounded a bit awful, didn't it? To all the econs out there, I'm definitely grinding every day. I think when you asked me to when I decided to actually come and speak with you, it's when I listened to some of your other episodes, and I just think that it's an exciting chance for me to I sort of put some of my thoughts into words. Not that I don't do that by myself already, but to sort of just share a little bit, and yeah.
So when you do listen back to this in 2 decades' time, what do you think your reactions would be?
Oh my gosh, she just went off. Definitely. I don't know how you've put up with this so far. And I don't know. I think I'm going to be thinking about that question that you posted from the John Locke website, I guess. How have I changed since then? And honestly, mostly I would just be embarrassed by how much I've gone off. And hopefully, I don't know if I've made something out of Moose Man, then when I'm listening back to this, it'd be a cool way to think about how it started. So yeah, so it's just this is a great experience. Thank you for this opportunity again.
That's right. You're not off the hook just yet.
No, that wasn't me trying to say, by the way.
Your sister, incredibly talented. I think 4 years older than you. Is that right? Mm-hmm. What was the relationship like growing up? I'm assuming that she would have taught you a lot, whether directly or indirectly. I think we're very different. Most people would agree with that, and I think I used to think that what I want to learn from her is just her discipline. She's such a great student. She's very hardworking, and all her friends have even told me oh my god, your sister is so hardworking. And I know I call her a nerd, but it's all in good fun. and she's very curious. She as I mentioned, she studies bionatsky. Right now she's doing sort of cancer research, but she's so interested in history, and she's sort of like our dad in that sense. She'll just read anything that sort of piques their interest, and I think she's got such a stimulated mind that even though her personality is very calm, and she's a bit reserved in that way, but I feel inside of her brain it would be a lot more, and that's where all the energy is. And anyway, so growing up, I thought I would learn from her discipline, her just her intelligence somehow, and her work ethic. But more and more in the recent few years, I think I also am trying and have learned from her character, just how calmly and rationally she approaches life a little bit. She doesn't worry at all about image, and no, that sounds bad. Okay, no, I'm not. Oh gosh, she's gonna listen to this, isn't she? No, I mean, not she doesn't care about her image, but that she doesn't worry too much about how she present how she comes off to others, and that's a strength because she doesn't embarrass herself, because sometimes you embarrass yourself by worrying about embarrassing yourself. So and also just how content she is with being by herself. I've always been more of an introverted extrovert type, where I love to be around other people but also get a bit awkward, and she's very self-content. So I'm there's different things I'd like to learn from her. I guess I can really just feel the love and appreciation you have for your family, which is fantastic.
Thank you.
And I guess sometimes it's hard to tell those close to us who we love and we know that they love us what we genuinely feel, because you just feel oh, it's just a bit awkward, we already know. But I'm going to challenge you. Like, what is there anything about them that you haven't really directly like told them in their face that you really appreciate?
Well, I mean, in terms of appreciating my family, you're asking a first year in her second term here who's extremely homesick. So I think it's very, like, this is the easiest it's ever been for me to just, like, gush about my family.
Go for it.
I would say I don't know. I think, like, everything I told you about what I appreciate my sister, I think I have told her. But also, I guess I just, the way I feel comfortable, like, I feel comfortable sharing everything, literally anything with her, with my sister. And like there are times when she's much more of a realist. She doesn't like feel get as emotional as I do. So I don't think I've ever like told her that the way she reacts sometimes, where she sort of just like, in a sense it's like a don't be so dramatic, but not in a bad way, you know. It's sort of just like, don't make too much of a big deal, you'll only make yourself feel worse. That actually helps me a lot, because I think initially I thought that was sort of just like, why are you putting me down? I'm just trying to like share things with you. But I realized that that's actually a very helpful thing for her to do, because I definitely need to be reined in. And yeah, I mean, I guess with my parents, I really appreciate just how much like emotionally they've given to us, because not just emotionally, also like in terms of like curiosity and just like sharing everything. Like my dad's, as I told you, like he's the kind who would just read anything. My mom's curious about so many different cultures, like she loves learning new languages, and just all these things that they will just wholeheartely and like without any hesitation like share everything with us, and it makes us like such a close family, which I'm really lucky. I'm really lucky to have that. It's like I don't even know how to say how lucky I am to have like this like a support system that's always going to be there.
That's beautiful. Is there anything else that you feel like is really important for you that we should keep in the recording, or else I've got a couple maybe final questions? I guess I'll let you like take us wherever it's going. Well, I haven't actually decided on what questions, but why don't you? So, second last question is what is, because we're part of the Cambridge Student Investment Fund, and I know as an econ you constantly think about investments. What's been one of the best investments under £100 or $100 that you've made? So basically, what's a small investment that you've made that have really returned a good result? Doesn't have to be financial, of course. We don't offer financial advice.
Yeah, like just a disclaimer there. I think actually before CAMSIF, I unfortunately didn't have much like hands-on like investment, like finance side. So I guess I'll just like talk about something other than that. Because I mean, like with CAMSIF, it's great experience.
You've enjoyed it so far, being ESG head?
I really enjoyed it. We get to like actively engage every week, and we're learning through each company that we're looking into.
We're so glad we appointed you, and as I told you last Sunday, when we had your interview, we sensed your enthusiasm, but we were a little unsure of your ESG knowledge at the time, which I think, to be honest, was slightly lacking, but which is fine, it's a first year, how are you meant to? But we thought that if we give Sarah a chance, we trusted that you would go above and beyond, and that's exactly what you've done. In the way that you've held a much larger team together has been really impressive. So thank you for your
so much.
leadership.
It's great to hear, because I really have enjoyed. I know that I mean, everyone here has such a busy schedule, but the idea that like I can sense from my team that whenever they're able to, they really like go into the research that we do into the companies, and they're actually just are so interested in our role as ESG, into looking at like some factors that the investment like the team itself might not have. Oh, sorry, I have to go back to your investment question.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well, is it weird to say my headphones? Because I would say that I think I would say my headphones has given such great returns, like in terms of comfort here at uni, and that's I don't, it's not the best answer, but I would say
It's really, yeah.
I just don't, I can't see not having them. Like they've like gotten me through a lot of like issues like everyone inevitably faces here. So.
I guess I'm adding another one just to build on that, but what's like the most meaningful act of kindness you've ever given or received then?
Act of kindness that
You've ever given or received?
Wow. I didn't think about that. I mean, like top 3 has to be the barista putting chocolate on this coffee because it's so good.
That's recency bias.
No, definitely, yeah.
I think your life has been better than...
No, it has. I
Gets
panicked
into
there.
Cambridge, no.
No, it's the chocolate on coffee, definitely.
But it's also important to appreciate the small moments of every day, yeah.
I mean, just to keep like confidentiality, I would just say like a friend that I've had. I remember we had, it's like relatively recent, so you can call it recency bias again, but it was a pretty meaningful moment where we were having a conversation where I sort of like opened up a bit. I talked about some of like some issues because I was trying to like ask for her advice on some things, and I just remember that afterwards she asked me if there was anything she could do to make sure I wouldn't feel bad about sharing with her. And that's like nobody's ever asked me that, because like sometimes if you're not that kind of overthinker yourself, you don't realize that the problem's not just like opening up to someone, it's that afterwards you go and you walk away and you're like, oh, what have I done? So I think just like that, asking that question sort of just like showed that she understood in a way that was really, it wasn't like too obvious, and it was like, it was casual, and it just made me feel much better. And it was I guess that's just one thing I think of.
Yeah, I guess the gift of listening and empathizing and caring, it's hard to put a price tag on it, and it's just such a warm thing to know that someone cares about us and actually thinks from our perspective of what could comfort us. What a lovely friend. Make sure you do send him or her or they the podcast.
Yeah. Wow, I thought you were gonna say like send them like our well wishes and then what podcast. Nope, definitely we'll be sending them. I think they probably would appreciate like actually I think they would enjoy your podcast. This is such, again, like this is just like a warm place, a warm channel to listen to. So yeah.
Final question then. What's one message, quote, or saying you wish every educator would promote and every kid would internalize? Your final words on the podcast. Words of wisdom.
No pressure. I mean...
Think.
No, don't actually. Or like just control what you do. No.
By Mooseman.
Yeah, when it's actually done and published, but definitely coming to theaters near you. When you said quote, I would say one of my favorite quotes is it's actually like a conversational thing, but it goes, where are you going? With luck, forward. And if you don't know where that's from, oh wow, it sounds so wise. It's from Ratatouille, and it's one of my all-time favorite movies. But I just love like with luck forward. That's really all you need, because when you're doing something, that's actually something my mom recently told me. When you have a lot of things on your plate, you do each thing. You get in the moment when you're doing one of them, and you don't think about the rest of the things you have to do. So like you just concentrate. You don't get yourself anxious, but at the same time, like keep in mind that there's like your overall path in life is going to be forward, and I just think it's like whatever life brings you is going to be good things, like however we want to think about it. So whether you're gonna be like a rat chef or I think as inspiring as that is, like it's going to things are gonna happen, and it's whatever you think it's good or bad in the short term, it's all part of forward. And I love that quote. I think it was my Instagram bio for a while, but
wow, that's really beautiful. And I remember the first time we had a proper conversation was at the Granta for the social for CAMSIF, and just to think back to that moment and leading up to now, and seeing all the work that you've done at Cambridge with like tennis and other societies, and the chats that we had at the Alternative Investment Conference, and now leading up to this coffee chat. You do keep going forward. I can really sense that drive of you pushing and being disciplined. And I think my main takeaway for this chat is just just how intrinsically motivated you are to think about the biggest questions, and the freedom that you give yourself to explore and to I didn't know about Moose Men and the Google Docs, but it's really, really cool. And of course the love for your family has been very, very heartwarming and inspiring. So thank you very much, Sarah, for a great conversation. Keep going forward.
Thank you.